The breadsticks and pasta bowls aren't the only things that are unlimited and never-ending at Olive Garden. When you're here, shady business practices are part of the family. In 2016, the investment group Starboard Value LP seized control of Darden Restaurants, the parent company of Olive Garden. To improve the quality of the restaurant's products and increase profitability, Starboard Value's financial experts recommended that the chain should institute an easy, inexpensive, and traditional preparation tip to make its pasta taste better. Add salt to the water at the beginning of the cooking process. Even though Olive Garden purports to offer a homemade-style dining experience, they reportedly never did this before the Starboard Value takeover. And they didn't do it afterwards either. Salt can rust and corrode kitchen equipment over time and cause pitting. So internal research at Olive Garden suggested that using salt in its pricey pots and pans would void the warranties. The board of directors ultimately decided that Olive Garden's dishes tasted just fine without adding salt. Chain restaurant food is widely understood to not be particularly healthy. Olive Garden is especially guilty of including too much salt in its sprawling menu, despite not including it in their pasta water. Several popular favorites at the chain contain more sodium than the United States Department of Agriculture recommends a person should consume over an entire day. The USDA's official guideline on sodium intake is to limit consumption to under 2,300 milligrams daily. A few Olive Garden options that exceed this number all on their own include the chicken parmigiana, the tour of Italy, the chicken marsala fettuccine, and the chicken tortellini alfredo. And some appetizers also provide more than enough sodium for a day, like the meatballs parmigiana and the spinach artichoke dip with flatbread crisps. The single saltiest dish at Olive Garden is the shrimp Frito misto appetizer, which packs in 2 whole days' worth of sodium with 5,010 milligrams.
If you don't know anything about sodium now, I don't know what else we can do for it.
Olive Garden's widely beloved breadsticks are easily their most famous contribution to American cuisine. It certainly doesn't hurt that they come with free refills, and even though they taste magical, they're also extremely simple to make. It's just white bread dough shaped into a cigar and brushed with a garlic butter sauce that consists mostly of margarine and garlic salt. But Olive Garden doesn't actually make its most notable concoction in-house, instead partnering with commercial bakeries to prepare and partially bake all those sticks. They arrive in semi-cooked form at each location daily, and then the staff heats them just before serving. This is hardly an unheard-of practice in the restaurant industry, but it's still a little disappointing when you consider how synonymous breadsticks are with Olive Garden. Olive Garden proclaims itself to be an Italian restaurant, but it would probably be more accurate to call it Americanized Italian or Italian-inspired. It's fair to say that some of its most popular dishes aren't exactly authentically Mediterranean. Although, to be fair, Olive Garden doesn't really claim that they are. In the 2010s, though, the chain attempted to position itself as the real deal with the introduction of several new menu items marketed as gourmet Italian dishes, including the soffitelli and pasta Shady. The former was a series of entrees consisting of a puff pastry shell loaded with a blend of cheese and herbs and topped with chicken and a creamy garlic sauce or braised beef and a balsamic sauce, while the pasta Shady was an elaborate multi-layered take on lasagna. But neither of these concoctions actually come from Italy. Instead, both were invented in Olive Garden kitchens and just given Italian-sounding names.
That food was all very salty.
The pasta and noodles that form the foundations of most entrees at Olive Garden may arrive hot and steaming, but that doesn't mean that they're fresh. Chances are that they were actually cooked many hours before. The average Olive Garden location handles so many customers daily that food prep must occur on a massive scale.
We're gonna make a big spaghetti dinner for all our friends.
It would take too much time and kitchen space to boil water for every single one of those countless pasta orders. So instead, the staff pre-cooks all the pasta for the day first thing in the morning. It's then placed in an ice bath and transferred into portioned bags or a massive vat. When customers order, the staff then gets to work reheating the pasta. Pots of water are kept boiling all the time, and cooks can just throw a measured portion of pre-made noodles into the water, getting it ready for serving in just a couple of minutes or less. Then it's all strained, plated, and topped with the appropriate sauce. The average Olive Garden needs to utilize time-saving measures to ensure that diners aren't kept waiting unreasonably long for their meals. The kitchens are accordingly equipped with at least 3 microwaves that can heat or cook most foods in a much shorter time than an oven or range top. That's obviously not quite providing a top-level restaurant experience, or one that will make food as tasty as possible, but it is the reality. To get into specifics, Olive Garden uses the microwave to speed up cooking times for potato items, hot vegetables, and some sauces and meat portions. Despite depending on the microwave, the chain attests that many of its items are freshly prepared the same day on the premises, including their soups and pasta sauces. The meat used in various entrees arrives frozen at each restaurant and is cooked on the premises as needed. Just as the complimentary breadsticks at Olive Garden are unlimited, but within reason and subject to a strict set of rules, the pre-meal salad is also doled out within certain parameters. While it may appear without fail that a server plops down that giant bowl of salad, it's all been measured and assembled based on the number of people in the dining party. Olive Garden is stingy with the more expensive ingredients, specifically olives, tomatoes, and peppers. The more people sitting at one table, the more croutons and specialty vegetables and toppings they'll get in their salad. They can certainly order as many more bowls as they want, but the exact combination of ingredients will likely always be the same. Olive Garden operates under an all-you-can-handle Parmesan cheese policy. Servers wielding white plastic shredders will grind on a hunk to provide customers with as little or as much salty, tangy garnish as they want. While that remains one of the most generous and tasty practices at the chain, it's also something of a lie. As it turns out, customers don't really get unlimited Parmesan cheese because the cheese isn't actually Parmesan.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Chain-wide, Olive Garden uses Lotito Romano, an Italian cheese with a taste and texture similar to Parmesan. What's the most important difference as far as Olive Garden is concerned? The Lolito Romano is much cheaper. But the Lolito Romano will do the trick in a pinch, and only someone with a sophisticated cheesy palate would notice the difference. Regardless, it's still a questionable cost-cutting measure. Similarly, the chicken Parmigiana recipe doesn't employ Parmesan at all, as it's made with American-style mozzarella. As a signature menu item, Olive Garden's fettuccine Alfredo is certainly a crowd-pleaser. Consisting almost entirely of thick noodles, a creamy and cheesy sauce, and grilled chicken on top for an extra charge, it's an extremely simple dish. It's even more basic and easy to prepare than some customers might realize. According to Olive Garden kitchen workers, it takes less than a minute to put together, making it an even faster dish than most fast food, but at a significantly higher cost than a cheap burger and fries. The entree begins with pasta, and since Olive Garden cooks all of its most frequently used noodles in advance in large batches, all a cook has to do to get the fettuccine ready is pull it out of a holding vessel and give the right portion a quick bath in boiling water. Then it's topped with pre-cooked Alfredo sauce. Altogether, the total amount of time required to make the fettuccine Alfredo is about 20 seconds. With that in mind, servers often wait to put in orders to the kitchen to give cooks a head start on prepping other dishes and ensure that everything is ready at the same time.
I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready.
Genuine Italian food is very reliant on flavorful sauces, as is the Americanized Italian fare served at Olive Garden. But some of the ways that the chain's kitchens have devised those sauces are a little disappointingly mundane. Across its menu, Olive Garden offers 4 sauces, with most options built around a marinara or Alfredo base. And then there's the proprietary 5-cheese blend. If it seems like the latter is part red sauce and part cream sauce, that's because it is, as it's just the chain's 2 chief sauces mixed together to create something seemingly new. Then there are Olive Garden's meatballs. Despite the strong taste of pork, none of the meatball-based items actually contain it. The menu mentions that the meat sauces contain Italian sausage, which is categorically made with pork, but the meatballs instead utilize the spices that create the Italian sausage flavor profile while omitting actual pork. That familiar taste is achieved through a mixture of Italian seasonings, mostly marjoram, sage, and thyme. Many people avoid gluten in their diets for a variety of reasons. As pasta is primarily made with wheat flour, there aren't a lot of choices on the Olive Garden menu that truly exclude gluten. But the chain does make its nutritional information available with an online guide that offers warnings for its customers on a gluten-sensitive diet. The guide confirms that the gluten-free pasta option is made from brown rice flour and cooked in different pots than the wheat-heavy pastas. But Olive Garden also suggests that gluten-intolerant customers should proceed at their own risk. As the fine print reads, the menu items we call gluten-sensitive are our menu items that are made without gluten-containing ingredients. We do not claim these items are gluten-free because we have not chemically analyzed them to confirm if they meet the Food and Drug Administration's definition of gluten-free.
Read the small print.
Olive Garden has an allergen guide available for its customers that lists which items contain potentially problematic elements like dairy, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, and peanuts. Only one item at the chain contains nuts of any kind, the almond biscotti, a small cookie given out with the specialty coffees on the dessert menu. Nevertheless, Olive Garden may still not be a safe place to dine for people with nut allergies. The chain once sent a letter to a customer that ended up being published on Allergy Eats. The customer service department admitted that it couldn't ever guarantee that its kitchens were free of nuts, while also absolving itself of responsibility. As an Olive Garden representative wrote, identifying allergens is a complex process for restaurants, as there may be minuscule amounts of ingredients our vendors may not list. As you know, peanuts have been hidden in pie crusts, gravies, chili, spaghetti, soups, and cheesecakes. While none of our recipes include nuts or peanuts, we cannot say with complete accuracy that there are no nuts or possible cross-introduction of nuts in our restaurants stemming from our vendors. So, because it can't control and doesn't test everything that its vendors provide, Olive Garden doesn't proclaim itself to be entirely nut-free. For a while, Olive Garden's breadsticks didn't contain sesame, but to be compliant with the FASTER Act that went into effect on January 1st, 2023, the restaurant altered its breadstick recipe by adding sesame to the flour. One stipulation of the new allergen labeling law is that food manufacturers have to clearly inform customers if a product contains sesame. So, rather than run the risk of sesame and other items contaminating its breadsticks, Olive Garden deliberately added sesame into the mix. That way, they could definitively lead allergic customers away. After customers noticed the recipe for one of the chain's most popular items had changed, Olive Garden ended up switching its flour suppliers. By the end of 2023, sesame-free breadsticks had returned, although the chain's allergen guide warns the cross-contamination could still be possible at supplier facilities.